Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another Ramadan Storytime with Sister Marsha. I'm so glad that you could join me today. We are still in the month of Ramadan with just a few short days left. And so I'm glad that you are sticking around to hear these stories. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to read them to you. Tonight, we are going to read yet another story that involves the Prophet Musa. This one also comes from the My First Quran Storybook series, published by Good Word Books. And this one is titled Allah Speaks to the Prophet Musa. And without further ado, we're going to jump into tonight's story. My First Quran Storybook, the best treasured stories from the Quran. And these stories are written by Sunny Yasmin Khan. Allah speaks to the Prophet Musa. One day, Allah commanded to the Prophet Musa, alayhi salam, and as is customary when we read these books, I always remind you that alayhi salam means upon him be peace. Allah commanded to the Prophet Musa, climb to the top and stay there for 40 days. Musa climbed to the top of the mountain. He looked around. He saw high mountains and deep valleys. He saw green trees and colorful flowers. He saw the blue sky with little white clouds, and he thought, praise be to Allah for making such a beautiful world. The Prophet Musa's heart filled with love for Allah. He said to Allah, my Lord, show yourself to me. Let me look at you. Now, if you can imagine being in the Prophet Musa's shoes, he probably was really curious about, what Allah looks like. And so I imagine that that's what prompted him to ask those questions. Allah said to Musa, alayhi salam, you cannot see me directly. Do you see that mountain? Keep on looking there. My light will appear there. If the mountain does not crumble, you will be able to see me. And what do we see in the picture? Do we see the mountain crumbling? Yes, absolutely. The mountain crumbled. And so therefore, Musa wasn't able to see Allah in like flesh form or in a form that he thought he would see Allah. But absolutely, that is the work of Allah. Musa looked at the far away mountain when Allah's glory was manifested on the mountain. Immediately, the mountain crumbled away. Musa too fell down. When Musa came back to his senses, he cried to Allah, glory be to you. Allah commanded Musa, alayhi salam, to give his message to people and take the tablets with his commandments. Allah said, your people should follow my commandments. Musa took the stone tablets from Allah. All the commandments of Allah were written on them. And when we use that word commandments, it's also like another word for like rules. Somebody commands something of you. They have an expectation for how you behave. So that's another way to think about that word commandments. All the commandments of Allah were written on them. This was the Torah. Musa took the Torah and went back to his people. Allah guides people in all ages. At the time of Musa, he gave people the Torah. And to the last prophet, the Prophet Muhammad, Allah gave the Quran. The Quran gives the best guidance for all time to come. Thank you so much for joining me for tonight's story. Again, our stories come from the My First Quran storybook series published by Good Word Books. And this one was titled Allah Speaks to the Prophet Musa. And in speaking to the Prophet Musa, we learned that he gave him the commandments. And you'll hear some people say the 10 commandments. But we know that what Allah gave to the Prophet Musa was the Torah, right? So that those were some of the first rules that he had given to people, and he commissioned the Prophet Musa to teach it to the people. And I'm so honored to read these stories to you. I hope that you are learning some valuable lessons from them. And I hope that you join me for our next Ramadan story time tomorrow. And until then, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Have a great evening, and I'll see you next time.